Welcome everyone to the show. Today I'm going to continue my series on my pillars of health and wellness. And we're going to start with the most basic, the most important one, and that is your diet. So at the end, I'm also going to be giving you guys and showing you a monthly meal plan that you can look at, and we'll get to that at the end. So first, I wanted to show you guys some videos to kind of prove to you why it's been so hard for all of us to be healthy. It's, everybody wants to blame you guys. Oh, it's because you're lazy or you just didn't do the right thing. And it's, whatever the reason is. The truth is, all of it has been stacked against us. We are living in a toxic soup. And you have to spend 90% of your life focusing on what's in what just to be healthy. And that is not fair. That's never happened before in human history. We used to know what food was, what was safe, what was not safe. And we're being poisoned so much that I can't blame you guys. I can't blame me. I can't blame any of us. And we've all been poisoned. So let me show you guys a video. Let me see this. This one is a little clip from the Senate hearing on birth control, and a lot of women, of course, were poisoned by this, told it was safe and it's not going to affect your fertility. It's not going to do anything, you guys. This is super fine. Just try it. You'll be good, right? Okay.
No time telling us that there was a magic pill that could solve all of our problems in a 10-minute wellness checkup with no informed consent about the risks or side effects. What problems were we solving exactly? A couple pimples. We were advised to not worry about learning to track our cycle or understand our hormones. No conversation about how our likelihood to experience anxiety or depression would increase by 80% on the pill. We stayed on the pill because no one advised us it was only ever supposed to be taken temporarily. Then we wanted to have children. We got off birth control for the first time in our adult lives, only to discover that we had major fertility issues that the hormonal birth control hid. Suddenly, starting a family means spending tens of thousands of dollars on IVF and other fertility treatments, because even more medical interventions are always the first solution rather than addressing the root causes of the problem.
Okay, so what happened with the women, and this is just the women because it's making the rounds on TikTok, X, whatever you want to call it, that it's women's fault. You should have known that this was going to cause all of your health problems. But the fact is, we were gaslit a generation to just trust authority. The one in the white coat knows best. The degree makes you God. So you have to do whatever they say. And the reality is, we just did not have the education to push back. We were taught just to do as we're told. We were never taught to think for ourselves. And here's another clip from the Senate hearing, because I really want to bring this to the forefront, because let's see, where is it? Here. Let me make this a little bit faster speed. Hopefully it's not too fast.
Is letting U.S. food companies get away with serving American citizens harmful ingredients that are banned or heavily regulated in other countries. Even worse, American food companies are selling the same exact products overseas without these chemicals, but choose to continue serving us the most toxic version here. It's un-American. Let me give you some examples of McDonald's French fries. In the US, there's 11 ingredients. In the UK, there's 3, and salt is optional. An ingredient called dimethylpolysiloxane is an ingredient preserved with formaldehyde, a neurotoxin, in the US version. This is used as a foaming agent, so they don't have to replace the oil that often, making McDonald's more money here in the United States. But they don't do that across the pond. This is Skittles. Notice the long list of ingredient differences. 10 artificial dyes in the US version and titanium dioxide. This ingredient is banned in Europe because it can cause DNA damage. Artificial dyes are made from petroleum, and products containing these dyes require a warning label in Europe that states it may cause adverse effects on activity and detention in children. And they have been linked to cancer and disruptions in the immune system. This on the screen back here is Gatorade. In the US, they use red 40 and caramel color. In Germany, they don't. They use carrot and sweet potatoes to color their Gatorade. General Mills is definitely playing some tricks on us. They launched a new version of Trix just recently in Australia. It has no dyes. They even advertise that when the US version still does. This is why I became a food activist. My name.
Okay, so that's Vani Hari. She's also known as the Food Babe, and she's been trying to get the word out on this stuff for quite some time. But I mean, everything is stacked against us. Here is another one, and this is Jillian Michaels. I mean, who would have thought that Jillian Michaels? She seems like she'd be very mainstream to me, but apparently she's also of the same mind.
So maybe by hitting you guys over and over, it will really piss you off.
Yes, yes.
So here I go. During the time that we've been given to speak with you today, roughly 800 people will die of an obesity-related disease that was completely preventable. And it's not just their loss that should elicit your devastation and your outrage, but the immense suffering of those left behind by those gone too soon. And it should also go without saying the ways in which obesity robs our nation of able bodies to defend our freedom, robs our nation of the brightest and best, as childhood obesity is linked to lower academic performance, and robs our nation of economic vitality with a financial impact estimated to range from $500 billion to $1 trillion annually when you combine direct healthcare costs, lost productivity, and social burdens. Our role as the dominant player on the world stage is being forfeited. My name is Jillian Michaels. I am a health advocate, a fitness expert, and a nutritionist. I have no political alliance because health transcends partisanship and ideology. Unlike the majority of issues I imagine people in Washington contend with on a daily basis, this one is not nuanced. It's black and white. It's right and wrong. It's good against evil.
So that's Jillian Michaels. I have another one, but I have to get through the commercials before I show it to you guys. And then we'll get into mineral deficiencies and what we can do to combat a lot of this stuff.
To Max.
Lugavere, yes.
Lugavere, okay, sorry. Is a leading health and wellness advocate, filmmaker, and New York Times bestselling author of Genius Foods. His work focuses on the link between diet, lifestyle, and brain health, and he has become a trusted voice in educating people about how nutrition impacts cognitive function. Max.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Johnson, thank you for having me here today to speak on one of the most pressing public health issues of our time, nutrition. Our food environment is killing us, and it's doing so slowly over the course of decades. And if we don't change course, future generations will suffer even more. Today, 73% of the modern supermarket is made up of ultra-processed foods, foods that barely resemble what we've evolved to eat. 60% of the calories Americans consume are from these types of products. Certain demographics are hit harder than others. For example, Black Americans consume on average 80% of their calories from ultra-processed foods, contributing to a disproportionate burden of diet-related diseases. This isn't by accident. Many such populations are specifically targeted by advertisers. But make no mistake, all Americans are under attack, and it's costing us dearly. A recent umbrella review of meta-analyses linked ultra-processed foods to 32 negative health outcomes, everything from cancer, heart disease, and diabetes, the usual suspects, to depression and anxiety, as Dr. Palmer has alluded to. Not one single positive health outcome was associated with these foods, not one. Ultra-processed foods, the kinds of foods that typically line our supermarket aisles, are engineered to be hyperpalatable and addictive. In fact, according to a study published by Gearhard et al. In 2022, ultra-processed foods meet the exact same criteria for addictive substances as tobacco products. Seminal NIH-funded research clearly shows that.
And I just wanted to highlight that point he made. Why they're as addictive as tobacco products is because when the tobacco industry realized the jig was up and they were found out for causing like all the cancers and everything, all of the scientists moved into the food industry to create hyperpalatable, super addictive, and yet very toxic foods. So that's why that there's that correlation.
Their obesogenic effect. They drive us to overeat by as much as 800 calories per day, simply due to the quality of the food. This finding was actually precisely replicated and published last week in Japan. This is why America is facing an obesity epidemic. That's not about willpower. It's about the food system. And yet, the most recent Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee appeared to bury their head in the sand, claiming that there's limited evidence that ultra-processed food intake increases risk for obesity in adults. We now know that every 10% increase in the proportion of ultra-processed foods in the diet is associated with a 14% increased risk of all-cause death and a 25% higher risk of Alzheimer's disease, a cause that's near and dear to my heart, as my own mother suffered from dementia for years before passing due to pancreatic cancer. I've seen profound sickness up close and personal, and it's motivated me to dedicate my life to this fight. But ultra-processed foods aren't just driving weight gain and subsequent metabolic dysfunction. Ultra-processed foods are exposing us to dangers that are invisible to the naked eye: forever chemicals, pesticide residues, and endocrine disruptors. You won't find microplastics on the ingredients list of any item in your cupboard, but they're there too, harming everything from our fertility to our cardiovascular health and increasing risk of heart attack, stroke, and death. New research published in the New England Journal of Medicine has shown. Our bodies are capable and resilient, but today, the toxic burden is simply too high. These compounds are laced into the very food-like products that line our grocery store shelves, and yet they remain under-discussed in public health conversations. In fact, legitimately concerned families are gaslit again and again, reminded that, quote, everything is a chemical. It's insulting to American families like mine who have seen real sickness. All this adds up to the fact that today, we are not simply living longer, we are dying longer. Chronic diseases are becoming more prevalent, and we're living out our final decades plagued by illnesses that are largely preventable with the right interventions. But here's the problem. A fraction of the money spent on chronic disease goes towards the research and promotion of these interventions. For brain disease specifically, my passion, prevention accounts for only 2 cents of every research dollar spent. Think about that for a moment. The majority of our resources are being funneled into treatment while we're barely investing in stopping these diseases before they start. It's a short-sighted approach to one of the greatest public health challenges of our time.
Okay, and you can continue to listen to these clips yourself to see the whole one because they're really interesting and I highly recommend all of them. We have one more and then I'm going to get into some things we can do. And this, of course, is Michaela Peterson and Jordan Peterson.
Most people don't know that what they're consuming is making them sick. They know junk food is bad, but they don't realize it's causing chronic disease. And neither do their healthcare providers.
Our next presenter is Michaela Peterson Fuller. The topics.
Idiopathic hypersomnia, which is a fancy definition for chronic fatigue, and I could barely get out of bed for years. My hip and ankle were replaced when I was 17 from the arthritis that wasn't managed by the medications I was on, and I spent a year on OxyContin, limping around what felt like broken bones, trying to stay hopeful and not kill myself.
Okay. So she's going to go into her health history, which if you know anything about her and her dad, they fixed it with the Lion diet, which is primarily meat. So basically all of her chronic health and her family's chronic health issues were linked to their food. And one might be thinking, well, it's just probably their genetics and stuff like that. But we have been eating the same foods for centuries, and we have not been presenting with all of these health issues. This is a brand new thing. And a lot of the issues come from the glyphosate actually destroys the microbes in your gut, leaving the stronger ones, which tend to be more pathogenic, more dangerous for you when they get overgrown. And those are the ones that are causing all the issues. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over a few key nutrients that we need to remain healthy. And these are going to be your minerals. So I'm just going to go over a few of them. So the first one is iodine. Now, iodine we used to get from the soil. It used to be in healthy soil, but we don't have it in our soils anymore. The monocropping destroyed all the minerals in the soils. So there's no iodine. We're not able to get it from regular fruits and vegetables anymore. In fact, I would say fruits and vegetables, unless they're grown in regenerative farms, they're not going to have any of the nutrients that they list on the packages. If there was ever a study done on, let's say, apples, and you get something that was not regenerative farmed apples, sprayed with glyphosate, depleted soils, monocrop, you're not going to get those nutrients, especially things in the ground like, potatoes or sausages. What am I saying? Freaking cucumbers, tomatoes. Tomatoes are one of the most highly toxic crops we have. It's so hard to grow them, so you need so much toxic stuff. All right. So we can't get it from our diet, so just forget about that. Processed foods tend to deplete iodine, so if you're eating a lot of processed foods, you're going to deplete your iodine because they lack essential nutrients that support the thyroid. Soy products also can interfere with the thyroid hormone production. So you're going to have problems if you're eating too much soy. Certain fruits like peaches and strawberries can affect iodine levels and thyroid function. About 80% of absorbed iodine is stored in the thyroid, and iodine is mainly found in seawater. So the further you live from the coast or the higher your altitudes are, the greater risk for iodine deficiency. And I'm going to go talk about this because this is very important. Chlorine. This is not something you need. This is something that's very dangerous. And here is why. Chlorine displaces iodine. So your ability to produce thyroid hormones is reduced when you're exposed to chlorine. So this can cause low thyroid hormone levels, hypothyroidism. And the higher the concentration of chlorine you have in your body, the lower your iodine levels naturally. So to counteract the effects of chlorine, you need high amounts of vitamin C. It can neutralize chlorine topically and internally. It can repair skin that was damaged by chlorine. A lot of people have skin issues, and it's really the tap water filled with chlorine. And then there's tartine. Tartine is an amino acid that helps the body eliminate chlorine. You can order it online. It's a supplement. Vitamin E and D and iodine supplements, not only do they support your health, but they can help mitigate the chlorine toxicities as well. So other things you can do to detox chlorine from your body. Remember, every time you wash your hands, anytime you take a bath, anytime you drink tap water, God forbid you'd still drink tap water, or if you have no choice, Epsom salt bath, 2 cups for about 50 pounds of body weight will help you detoxify some of that chlorine if you do it for 30 minutes. And that's per exposure. So let's say you go to the pool, you're in tons of toxic chlorine. I would say do 3 times that and take a bath in Epsom salts afterwards. Also, it can completely damage your hair, and you can use a little bit. It's like a tablespoon of baking soda mixed with 1 cup of water, and like spray that all over your hair after swimming, and then wash with a mild shampoo, and that can help get some of the chlorine out. It's already damaged your hair. It's already seeped into your body, but it can help a little bit mitigate some of the effects, like the breakage and the hair loss and God knows what else. Swim caps is best if you're going to go to the pool. I do not recommend those pools. And of course, saltwater swimming pools still need chlorine, be it that it's a lower amount. It's kind of still about what tap water is. So you're still getting a lot, because tap water in and of itself is very bad. And of course, you have to monitor your city water if you're not on well water to see when they're doing chloramine flushes. Chloramine cannot evaporate. Is the form of chlorine that is very concentrated. It cannot evaporate. And a lot of pets will die from kidney failure during this flush because you're still giving them tap water. You don't know. If you're not monitoring when your city is doing these flushes, you'll never know. You'll be getting into there wondering why your skin itches or your hair is burnt and falling off and clumps are coming out. And you're just like, well, I don't know. I didn't do anything wrong. And then you'll attribute it to something else when really it's the tap water. The next thing that you need mineral-wise is selenium. And this helps with glutathione and metabolizes harmful hydroperoxides. I don't know what that is, but it's important for the body. So it also assists in converting inactive thyroid hormone, which is T4, to the active form that your body can use, which is T3, and that works alongside vitamin E. So if you're not getting vitamin E, it's not going to work properly. You're not going to get proper thyroid function. So things that deplete selenium, that would be living in regions with selenium poor soil. That's all of us, right? All of us with our store-bought fruits and vegetables, depleted soil. If you're undergoing dialysis, if you have HIV or Crohn's disease or any sort of digestive disorder where you have problems metabolizing your nutrients. If you take anything like the cholesterol lowering drugs, I believe that's what it's, Synthroid. Statin drugs, that's what they're called. Any statin drugs will deplete coenzyme Q10 and interfere with vitamin K2 and selenium. So if somebody tells you to get on a statin drug, please do your research outside of the mainstream and find out how much we need cholesterols. And once they invented statin drugs, and it was sort of like a mistake. They just happened to see that it lowered cholesterol levels. So then they go, I wonder, we can just create a problem and then lower cholesterol levels. Oh, there's a correlation. Do your research on that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. In fact, here's my little banner. Wait, no, it's this one. Actually, that one says Damon. Just forget about Damon. He's not here right now. So just do your own research on statins and how detrimental they are and the link to Alzheimer's. Do that on your own. This is not medical advice. Do your research. Then we have things like molybdenum. Molybdenum is a nutrient that you need, and it's an important compound of coenzymes necessary for detoxification of xanthine oxidase, sulfate oxidase, and aldehyde oxidase. I might have butchered those names, but basically these are your cleanup crew to get rid of waste products and help break down purines, which is found in meat and beans, that break it down into uric acid. And if too much uric acid builds up, it can cause problems like gout, which is very painful. So it helps keep that in balance. And then sulfate oxidase, that one helps break down sulfates. And a lot of people are very sensitive to sulfates. So then when the food's high in sulfates, if they're low in molybdenum, they'll have problems and they'll be like, maybe I'm allergic to this food. Really, you're low in this mineral and you're not able to detox. And aldehyde oxidase, some people have problems with when they eat stuff that's high in that, and a lot of that comes from foods, and if you're not getting that, then you're not gonna be able to detox it, and you're gonna have all these symptoms and be like, I'm allergic, I'm sick, I have food sensitivities, and you just have mineral deficiency. Then there's chromium. If you are deficient in it, you could have weight loss, confusion, impaired coordination, increased risks of diabetes because you have poor glucose tolerance because of that. So you can look into that one. Copper deficiency. Some people are born with it, so we're not going to talk about that one because that's usually discovered at birth and they'll tell you about it. But the acquired copper deficiencies, you can have like malabsorption, cystic fibrosis, excessive zinc intake, vitamin B12 deficiency may also be present. So we're not going to talk about that one. That one is whatever. But copper toxicities, a lot of people in India actually have copper toxicities, and it goes hand in hand with high estrogen. So if you have estrogen dominant or higher estrogen than what you're supposed to have, look into your copper levels and also look into your environment. Things like copper bracelets. There are a lot of hippies that are into wearing copper, like, oh, it's good for your, I don't know, your aura or something. It's not. It's giving you copper through your skin. Also, let's see. Those copper vessels, like let's say copper teacups, copper whatever, old copper cups, Moscow mules. If you drink out of those, it's going to give you a high dose of copper, and you could get copper toxic very easily. I was listening to some Ayurvedic guy, and he's like, you need to have a copper vessel and leave your water in it overnight, and then it's going to make you blah, 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 healthy, blah, blah, blah. So then I started drinking it, and then my doctor tested my copper levels, and she's like, they're sky high. What the hell are you doing? So I had to stop doing that, retest a couple months, and like about 8 months later, they finally came down. So be careful with copper. All right. Zinc deficiency, and this is needed for bones, teeth, hair, skin, liver, muscles, leukocytes, and your testes to function properly. You could have zinc deficiencies if you're taking diuretics. People don't know this, but coffee and teas are, most teas, not herbal teas, but most teas and coffee for sure are diuretics. When you're taking your supplements and you're drinking coffee with them, they're not being absorbed because coffee is a diuretic. So it's going to make it go through really quick. So there's going to be no absorption. So be very careful when you take supplements that you're not taking them around or with your coffee or any other diuretic. Let's see. Patients with diabetes, sickle cell, kidney disease, liver disease, alcohol use lowers your zinc, or any sort of malabsorption, gut issues will lower your zinc. Weight loss surgeries usually give you a whole bunch of mineral deficiencies. I do not recommend those. And older people can get them. Iron deficiency is another big one. Common causes could be malabsorption problems, bleeding, like heavy menstruation or gastrointestinal bleeding issues. You could have fatigue, pica, spoon-shaped nails, really weird, look those up online. Restless leg syndrome, and in advanced cases, you can get like microcystic anemia. So that needs to be dealt with a professional because not all iron supplements are the same, and if it's not from animal products, it doesn't really get absorbed. So the plant ones or the vegan ones are just, in my opinion, a waste of time. Do your own research. And I always say there's more vitamins and minerals that you need. So you can look at the Merck manual, and you can go to merckmanuals.com to see all the this is actually what doctors use, what they should be using to find out like your symptoms, to look up symptoms and see what could be going on with you and what they need to do. So you can actually get your own Merck manual. And I recommend purchasing really old versions before like, they started messing with it. And you can also look at the one online, which is going to be your very basic, simple, not with high details. I think you should have your own in your house. Keep it for reference. Anyone has any symptoms, you can look it up. You can look it up everything. All right, now we're going to talk about this. It is, let me share. Okay, you're not going to be able to read this, but it is linked in the description box, so you can open it up in another window if you want. This is Cat's Food for the Month chart. So I took the liberty of breaking down all the foods you need to eat, where you can get it, and this is where I get my meat from. It's called Rep Provisions, REP Provisions, and I have a link in it so that you can get 15% off of your order. And I broke down, I made the whole thing for, if your ideal weight is 200 pounds, you would need 200 grams of protein. You have to do it based upon your ideal weight for this to work. And I only consider animal protein. Okay. It's the only one that's bioavailable. So if it's not bioavailable, I don't know what you're doing. So this is just, okay. Also, it's super expensive to live, guys. I'm not gonna lie. You can save some money by increasing your eggs, because eggs seem to be cheaper. So you can get more eggs and less meat. You can also get more chicken and less beef. I really think the more beef you can get, the better. You can also get the cheaper type of beef. I put a mix. So the Primal Beef Blend, I think it might be cheaper. Actually, I don't remember. But anyways, it's probably the same price actually. So the Primal Beef Blend has a little bit, I think it's like heart and liver or spleen, something like that, mixed into it. So you're going to get more vitamins and minerals than just plain regular ground beef. Now, it's not going to taste the same. It's going to be a little bit more gamey. So you're going to have to get used to that. Flavor it up. That's why I have this whole thing. All of this in green are just different herbs, spices, seasonings, whatever you can get. And these, I get them from Rose Mountain Herbs, because that's the only place that I found that tests for heavy metals, because all the places were found to have high heavy metals in them because of the grinding machines they use are just high in heavy metals. So it's going to get into the herbs and stuff. So it's the only place that I recommend. And this is not going to be something you have to buy monthly. This $120 worth of herbs is not a monthly expense, because you're not going to use 4 ounces or whatever of an herb, of all these herbs every single month. You're just not going to do it. So I also have here the Celtic sea salt. So it's about $10 for a 2-month supply. So that's not really bad. And then if you insist upon drinking coffee, I recommend the Purity Coffee Flow. It's a 12-ounce bag, whole beans, $24. You can probably get it cheaper on Amazon. Subscribe and save. So that can save you some money. Let's see. And the total for everything came out to be, this is really bad. But remember, not everything needs to be ordered every single month, and you can tweak it based on your needs. Not everybody is 200 pounds of their ideal weight. Maybe it's 180 or something like that, and you could save some money. Also, it's a little bit more protein, I believe. Yeah. So this is going to give you about 31 days of 200 grams of protein per day. So about a month. Anyways, all of it came out to 1,215, which is a lot. So I'm not saying it's not a lot. I'm saying you're not going to be able to do everything all at once. You're going to have to go, and a lot of these things, if you look at it, you don't need them. Like, for example, grass-fed half and half. If you're not drinking half and half like I do, you don't need that. If you don't drink milk, you don't need that. So there you go. I do recommend you have butter, so you should probably get that, or ghee. You can substitute ghee. grass-fed, of course. Pastured eggs. If you can eat eggs, they're pretty cheap, so you can increase the eggs and lower the ground beef or whatever. I included chicken. I don't like chicken, but it's cheaper than the beef, so it might be good, or just to like spice it up a little bit. I also included 1 pound of lamb shank every week, and that ended up as $96 a month. So I think like for like a treat once a week, you have lamb is not so bad. Lamb is really, really good for you. It is always pasture raised. So you can even go and find it in Costco if you need to save some money and get as much lamb shank or lamb, what are those, like lamb chops, right? Lamb is just amazing. So always get lamb when you can, if you can afford it. I do not like Whole Foods lamb. I always get sick from it because I do not know what the hell they're doing to their meat. So I do not recommend it. Another big protein that I included was wild caught sardines. You can get it in water. You can get it in extra virgin olive oil, as long as there's nothing else. No flavors, no additives. Do not buy it if it has any flavors. You don't want flavors. You can add your own flavors. Don't trust them. So I put it's about 20 grams of protein for one can, maybe 18 to 20 grams per one can. And you can have one per day for the month, and it's only $90. So, and that's going to give you 600 grams of protein, which is amazing. So that's a really great way to get your protein in, and it has high omega-3, so it's going to lower if you've had processed food or seed oils your whole life or whatever. This is going to help lower your toxic omegas and give you some more omega-3s, balance you out. I also included, like, I'm fine with just, if you guys are just going to be carnivore, if you just want to eat your meat, that's fine. But if you want to add some other stuff, this is the safest stuff, the safest fruits and vegetables that I recommend. And we have like organic blueberries, raspberries. Notice how there's no strawberries. They're not really good for you. They're just not great. They're all GMO. They're all messed up. I just wouldn't trust it. They're all monocrop. There's no vitamins and minerals in them. But blueberries and raspberries and blackberries are still very highly nutritious. They haven't been able to destroy those completely. You can also get cooked beets, cooked organic beets in like vinegars and olive oil, whatever. You make a little beet salad. That's really good for you. You can get organic Hass avocados. You can get cantaloupe, melons, papayas. Capers are actually really good for you if you get the organic ones. If you can, there's this one brand. Okay, it's called Patagonia Provision Sourdough Sea Salt Organic Crackers. That is the only one that I've found that is not bad. Very simple ingredients. I think that's your best bet. If you want to have some grains, it's sourdough, it's organic, very simple ingredients. I would not make this a staple of your diet, but this is definitely for funsies in moderation. I love a goat cheese. Goat cheese is pretty safe and tolerated by most people, even if you're lactose intolerant. I put cream cheese in there. If you can get raw, organic, pastured, grass-fed, whatever, the better you can do, the better off you're going to be. And tomatoes are fun. They can cause reflux. They can cause kidney problems if you have too much. So don't make it a daily occurrence, but every now and then it's fine to have tomatoes. I like this brand called Organic Bello canned tomatoes from Italy, and you can get a few big cans of that for pretty cheap from, I believe, Whole Foods has them. There's probably similar varieties online or at Sprouts or wherever your groceries are. That one's pretty good because they're from Italy. They're not American tomatoes, which I would stay away from no matter what you do. I don't care what they call them, heirloom, blah, blah, blah. Don't touch American tomatoes. They're so bad for you. And I would stay away from raw tomatoes, even raw tomato salad. That's an American thing. People never ate tomatoes that way. Tomatoes and aubergine, or what's it called? Eggplants, they need to be cooked for hours, like stews, because they are a little bit toxic. They have a lot of like lectins and another plant chemicals that can make you inflamed. So you want to cook them to break those down as much as possible. So in Italy, they would cook a tomato sauce for maybe, I don't know, 4 hours, like a simmer. Cook it for 4 hours, put your spices in it, just let it go. And then they would eat it, and it would be safe to eat at that point. If you just warm things up, like you don't know these brands, like where they're getting tomatoes, what their processing plants look like, how filthy they are, what kind of heavy metals are put into this, are in the vats, the sides of the vats. Remember, tomatoes will pull any heavy metals from whatever container they're in, which is why they have to be in glass to be safe. Or other countries use liming that's not BPA, but we use BPA. So that's another reason why you don't want American tomatoes, especially in the cans. Yeah. So let's see. I get lemons and limes, and I use that to put on the meat, to cook, to whatever. A typical dinner for me, let's do breakfast. Typical breakfast, I'll get a piece of, like, a meat patty from just sourdough. Not, what am I saying? Not sourdough. A meat patty with, what is that? Ground beef, maybe a little bit of onion, and maybe, and some eggs. So I'll mix all that together and then cook it on the stove. This is a meat patty. It's enough protein for breakfast. Oh, and some other things that I added in that are pretty cool. Where is it? Okay, it's called grass-fed pastured raised beef gelatin powder. And I got 1.5 pounds for $26. And that would give you, for like one scoop, about 13 grams of protein per day. So that can increase your protein for the month by 390 grams for just $26 a month, which is great. And you can add this to sauces, like a thickener. You can add it to your coffee. If you leave your coffee, if you have to put it in hot coffee, obviously, for it to dissolve. And if you leave your coffee out for too long, it might turn into like a big gummy, but that's fun to eat too. You can make gummy bear type coffee, gummy, whatever you want, and just eat like little snacks. You can also use it. There's recipes online for how to make real high quality marshmallows with like beef gelatin. All right. I believe that's okay. Okay, so that was on breakfast. I have my mold-free coffee, Purity Flow coffee, or I get matcha. And I did not put that on this list, but I get my matcha from Encha Matcha. You can also order it on Amazon. Encha Matcha, I know the owner of it. I know his farm. It's completely non-toxic, beautiful in Japan. I highly recommend Encha Matcha. If you like coffee, mold-free coffee from Purity Coffee, the Flow variety, 12-ounce bag with whole beans. You have to grind them. Keep that in mind. $24 a month. So I have my coffee. I put a little bit of gelatin in it. So that's giving me 13 grams plus, I think it's like 2 eggs. And each egg, I believe, is 6 grams. So that's 13 plus, let's say, 12 plus like a 1/2 pound of meat. I mean, I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty well. You want to have 30 grams of animal protein per meal at least. And in the morning is a great time to have a little bit of carbs if you're going to even go there. If you're going to go for carbs, the morning after your protein, you can have a little bit of carbs. So what's going to happen is a protein is going to help slow down everything so that you won't get a big sugar spike. If you eat the carbs first or sugar first, then the protein after is not going to help you as much. You need to do protein first. Food order matters. Yes. I mean, yes, I'm just saying if you want to have some carbs, because I know some people are not going to listen if I say don't have any carbs. So this is just if you're going to do it first. Protein first. And then if you're going to be bad after, and it'll be less. Also, you have to remember you do not want to drink water before you eat. If you're choking, have water next to you. If you're afraid you're going to choke, have water next to you. Do not drink anything before you eat. What that will do is lower your stomach acid and make you more insulin resistant. So then you're not going to be able to digest properly. Also, when you have no stomach acid, you're not getting your vitamins and minerals from your food. It's kind of passing through you. And then after you've eaten, because you've sent the signal to send my stomach acid, but you've quelled it with all this water. So then after the food passes, then the rest of your stomach acid is going to finally come out and it's going to rise and you're going to get reflux. You might not feel it because it could be silent reflux, but then you're going to get receding gums. You're going to get sore throat. You're going to get maybe a scratchy throat, things like that. Teeth problems, all of that could be from just drinking water. Americans drink water with their food, and that is absolutely insane. Nobody in the history of the world has done that. You're supposed to keep your water away from your meals. You can have it after, which is why a lot of countries, they'll have a hot tea after they eat. So you can have like a nice mint tea, especially if you're like a high testosterone type of person. Mint tea or spearmint will lower your testosterone levels, making you more chill. If your chick is like super like stressed, maybe you can give her some herbal teas to chill her out after a meal. Also, let's see. We're going to be talking next week about, let's see, the other ones. Where is it? Okay, so this is my food steps here. In case you guys forgot about this, this is the important thing. 1 gram of animal protein per pound of your ideal weight per day. Ideally grass-fed and finished, but you'll be surprised to know this, but glyphosate can be detoxed from cows. They have 4 stomachs and thankfully they're able to get the glyphosate out. Of course, if they're eating a lot of soy and corn and plastics and whatever they're feeding them, they might still not be healthy, but at least they won't have glyphosate. So if you absolutely cannot afford to get grass-fed and finished, just know it is better than eating the other processed junk that you can find. All right, and next time we're going to do air. So we're going to be talking about all the things air, and this is your refresher of what's going to be happening next time, and get to the bottom of the description and download your food for the month chart. You can tweak it. This is just a guide for you to tweak. And this is, of course, based upon somebody whose ideal body weight is 200 pounds. I pick like, whatever the average dude should probably weigh in the country. This is not for a chick. Your chick should not be 200 pounds. Your chick probably should be 100 to 117 pounds, right? The ideal chick should be around that weight. But this is for a dude. I'm planning on there's some muscle there too. It's not just like a skinny dude. And if you don't have enough animal protein, you're not going to build enough muscle. So that's all for today, guys. I hope you find this helpful. I do not like the high-fat ground beef. I'd rather add butter in, the grass-fed butter or ghee when I'm cooking. 140. And yes, my budget is inflated, but remember, I'm in America. We are dying of freaking price gouging. It is so expensive to live. Everything is ridiculously expensive. So anyways, if you guys have any questions, you can also message me in the Discord, and that is also in the description box below. So that's all for today. Next week, I am going to finish this one, and I'll see you all next time. Have a great day. Bye.